All right, welcome back. Out here taking an amazing rollerblade, soaking up some vitamin D, and I want to answer the same question we've been talking about. How do you have vitality as a man to live a rich life? And today's topic specifically is not judging yourself based on who you are right now, finding your purpose, finding your destiny, thinking that you have to be like other people, thinking that you have to live up to other people's goals, expectations, skills, not knowing yourself. A long time in my life, this has been a huge problem, where I'll see figures that I admire, like the Tony Robbins or the different people that I'm inspired by, Vishen Lakhiani, and they're up there, they're on the stage, they're giving this speech, they have a crowd of people, they're popular, they're in great shape, and I always wanted to be like them, not understanding, well, what's my destiny? What's my temperament? What are my proclivities? What is my potential? And so I tried to squeeze myself into their cookie cutter. And for so many years, I'm talking more than 10 years, I would judge myself according to that. And what did that do to my vitality? What did that do to my self-esteem? What did that do to my self-image? I felt like I wasn't living up because I was comparing myself to this artificial standard. I wasn't understanding, well, actually, what's going to happen if I create a realistic standard? And so it's really a philosophical question is, you have to figure out and determine in your mind, do you think that you can just be anybody? Do you think that anybody can just be a rock star, an NBA player, a Tony Robbins? Because if you believe that, then you're going to judge yourself according to that standard. Or are you going to have a little bit more of a nuanced understanding that everybody can improve, everybody can strengthen their weakness, everybody can change, but to what degree? And should you focus on improving your weaknesses, or should you build on your strengths? Because I was trying to build on my weaknesses. I was always this shy introvert. And I wanted to be like Tony Robbins. I wanted to be the people that were popular, charismatic. That's trying to build on weakness, okay? So no wonder I had so much low self-esteem. I thought that I was failing. I was measuring myself according to this standard of my weakness, right? So that's kind of like someone who's born with a very slim frame, comparing himself to like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rocky Balboa, Hulk Hogan. It's like comparing yourself to all these people instead of maybe Bruce Lee. Maybe you could be the lean person, calisthenics. Maybe you could be the swimmer. But to think that everybody can just be like the mountain, like Mariusz Pudzianowski, world's strongest man, he won it like 7 times. This person who can just like power lift. Well, if you try to be that, you're setting yourself up for a difficult road because you're trying to build on your weakness. That's just a very blatant example. It's a very gross example to make it obvious, right? So people know in the physical realm, there's genetics, there's limitations, you have strengths, you have weaknesses, you have a temperament. But then when it comes to like your mentality and your mental capabilities, your social capabilities, I got it twisted. I thought that there's infinite potential there. People always say you can be whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Anybody can be the president. Now, I understand the benefit to encouraging people to reach for the stars, but in my opinion now, I might be wrong, but in my perspective now, I balanced that out. Not everybody can be a top rock star. Not everybody can be a Tony Robbins. It's like people are born with temperaments, even mentally, even in their personality, that are so set and so hard to change that yes, you can make progress in that temperament. You can become great according to your temperament. But if you try to break out of your temperament, it's like trying to break out of your genetics. Not everybody can be the mountain. Not everybody can be Mariusz Pudzianowski. Not everybody can be LeBron. Everybody can get better at playing basketball, but whether or not you should actually make that your career, if you should make that, what you're trying to make a living doing, if you're gonna base such a big part of your life success on that, in my opinion, that's a big mistake. I think know thyself is better wisdom. So it's kind of like in a video game. You know, certain people have more talent for being an archer or a mage or a healer. Not everybody can just be the berserker with a battle axe that has the physical strength and mass to actually go in and be that kind of a warrior. You know, if you get enlisted in an army, they'll understand your strengths and they'll make you play according to those strengths. So maybe in life, you're more of like the wizard. Maybe you have more mental capacity, intellectual capacity. Maybe you can invent things. Maybe you're good at writing. Maybe you're good at speaking. Maybe you're good at learning. You know, me, I had such proclivities towards learning, isolation, I love it, meditation, explanation. I'm very sentimental. I know how to make films. I know how to make documentaries. I know how to feel into things. I love to explore. I'm one of the most curious people that I know. And that's a curious thing because I seek out other curious people because I'm curious about them. And so I realized, you know, maybe I'm not meant to be the Tony Robbins, to be the face, to be the person who's out there having profound Tony Robbins type energy. You know, maybe I'm the person that can inspire through writing. Maybe I'm the person that can inspire one-on-one. Maybe I'm the person who has a different kind of charisma. You know, one time I saw this one speaker. He was speaking for a health coaching school. And he had such a normal, calm disposition. He was so calm. But his words still made an impact because he was so profoundly intelligent. And you can feel his presence. And he spoke about the message, about how they're changing society. He told stories about how one life at a time, people were changing, and how that ripple effect happened. You change someone's health, you change someone's life, and the ripple effect that goes out into society. It was a compelling speech. And I was so impressed because he was so slow in his speaking. He was so calm. He was so normal. He was so normal, it was abnormal. He didn't try to use any enthusiasm. And so I said, maybe I can be like him. You know, not every superhero is going to be the same. Not every superhero is going to be Superman. Maybe you can be the Dark Knight. Maybe you can be Doctor Strange. Maybe you're Lex Luthor, God forbid. But knowing your temperament and playing according to it, you know, maybe you're a Spider-Man. Maybe you're more agile. You have to understand how to be your own hero and not try to be a hero like other people. Here's a hospital. Never knew that this was here. And so I started playing into my strengths, and I'm doing it more and more. You discover more and more about your temperament and your strengths as you go along, and you stop trying to be somebody that you're not, all right? So this helps too with friendships, dating. You know, a lot of the times you don't even know that you're being inauthentic. You're trying to fake it until you make it, which is fair enough. But you gotta learn sometimes. You gotta learn if you're trying to fake a better version of yourself or if you're trying to fake a completely incongruent version of yourself. You know, there's a reason why you see actors in Hollywood, right? Certain actors play certain roles. They stay in their lane. Really smart businessman that I worked with would always tell me that. He'd say, stay in your lane, John. At first I hated that idea because I thought he was saying you can't improve. You know, I thought he was saying something like the caste system, like stay in your place. No, stay in your lane. You can go fast in your lane. You can become a great car in your lane. But it's like these actors. You know, you see Tom Hanks, he plays a certain kind of role. He's not trying to be a gladiator. You see Robin Williams, he has a certain type of range and role that he can act. Even in acting, you're faking it in acting, but at the same time, you have certain proclivities that you can act in. You can't fake it to an extreme degree. It's going to feel incongruent. So you can have multiple roles, but stay in your lane. Ooh, the ocean is powerful. Wow. You know, staying in your lane means understanding the range of congruence that you can really have. You know, it makes me wonder if this audio is really bad because of the wind, so we're going to go back. So, you know, why is it that you have the Will Smith character? You know, why isn't he doing like the really super different role like a Robin Williams? Well, you can just be anything you want, you know? No. It's not going to come off the same. You play according to your strengths. Different actors have different strengths. Jim Carrey, look at that guy. Not everybody can be the same Jim Carrey. So even actors, they play according to their strength. So I hope this is building some nuance, right? So you can always improve your weaknesses, right? But what you want to do is understand your strengths and base the most important things in your life on your strengths, right? So I'm not saying always completely ignore your weaknesses. So what do you do with your weaknesses? So for example, in life, sometimes you're forced to perform at things that you're weak at. When you're forced to perform at it, and it has a significant consequence if you're bad at it, then you have to improve it, right? It's kind of like if you're a basketball player, you have to run, even if you're Shaq. So if you're bad at running and you have to do it, then you have to improve it. But you're not going to make that all your game. You're not going to make your game depend on how good you are at running. See, so Shaq will improve his running even if it's a weakness of his, but he's not trying to run marathons. He's not trying to be an endurance athlete, you see? So you improve your weaknesses if you have to, if they have any consequence, but you keep your focus of your competence on your strengths and you still engage in the things that you're strong at, right? So Shaq, what's he strong at? He's strong at layups. He has that physical mass. You know, he's not trying to be the best shooter in the world. He's doing the rebounds, he's doing all of that stuff. You know, I'm not an expert on basketball, but that's my understanding of it, right? You have shooters, you have people who can like actually get in there, relay the ball, get the ball. So Shaq is kind of like that tank, right? He plays according to his strengths. He still practices accuracy, sure. He still practices endurance, sure. But he makes his strengths his strengths. He plays his game. Don't try to play other people's game. Shaq isn't trying to outshoot people. If you're trying to beat people at their strength, but it's your weakness, what are you doing? It seems so logical, but I did this for so long. I tried to compete with other people's strengths, not knowing that I was trying to get my weakness to fight their strength. So stupid, right? So I wanted to be good at sales. I wanted to be good at all of these social things that I'm naturally not good at. So it's good to be able to have some kind of lay understanding of them, but I'm not basing my business or my job on my weakness, right? So I still study it, but I'm not trying to be a salesperson. I'm not trying to compete with other people who have been practicing this for 20, 30 years and have a personality that's built for it. I'm not doing that. I'm going to play according to my strength. I'm going to play according to my writing ability, my marketing ability, my warmth, my information that I can bring to people, my curiosity. See, I'm playing according to my strengths. I'm not trying to outcompete somebody who's stronger than me with my weakness. That would be like if you're a really bad wrestler trying to get in the ring and out-wrestle someone who's been practicing since they were a kid. You know, you don't have the genetics for it, you're not good at it, but you learned a thing or two about wrestling. You watched 100 hours of wrestling drills. You practice here and there with your friends. Doesn't matter. That's a stupid decision. You might be a good boxer. You might have the long arms, you know? So you gotta fight the fight according to your strengths. If you're trying to get into MMA, you might think, but I have to learn wrestling. Right, you have to know what to do if you get into the ground. So you put a little bit of energy there, but you spend a majority of your time perfecting your strength. You do your best to avoid taking it to the ground. You practice your most on ending the fight quick. The fight always begins on your feet. So you can just focus on preventing it from going to the ground. You know, a lot of the people best in MMA, they can just knock people out, not ever give them the chance to choke them out, turn into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I see a bridge over here. So this is such a common sense thing, but people aren't taught to really weed this out. People aren't taught because people don't have mentors. People don't have perspective. So you can be spending years of your life judging yourself, feeling bad, feeling like there's something wrong with you because you're judging yourself according to your weaknesses instead of according to your strengths. So how did I figure out my weaknesses, my strengths? How did I actually stop striving towards something unrealistic? Well, there's a couple of different ways. First thing I did was, I put myself in many different situations. You try a lot of different jobs and you think about the results. You gotta reflect, you gotta contemplate, you gotta be conscious, you gotta actually give thought to your life. How many different jobs have you experimented with? How did it go? How did you feel at those different jobs? What were you good at? What were you bad at? I always found that I was good at one-on-one connection. What I needed work at and what was my weakness was managing, leading, giving speeches, leadership. Not a natural born leader. You can learn anything. It's not about talent, it's about practice. But at the same time, I'm not going to try to compete with people in an unrealistic arena. So you gotta fine tune, figure out what skills you're good at. Maybe you can stay in the arena, but maybe you just craft your style to a certain way, right? So there's nuances here. There's a lot of nuances. Just because you're bad at public speaking at first doesn't mean that you'll never be a public speaker. Doesn't mean that you have to completely abandon the entire field, the entire endeavor. It just means you have to find your style, play according to your strengths. And you'll keep on discovering more and more insight about, maybe I should move on, or like maybe this is worth staying in here, right? Only time will tell that, but you're using your intuition and common sense. You're figuring out more and more, what are my strengths? What are my skills? What are my competencies? Just because you're bad at leadership or management at first doesn't mean that you're damned to be a bad leader or manager. It just means that maybe you should find your own system of management. Maybe you should find your own style of influence. And maybe, you can still manage, but maybe you're not basing such a big chunk of your life on it. See, where it really matters, where you're getting the most results out of your life, you want to base that on your strengths. You can still practice other things that you're not good at. Just don't make the results in your life dependent on it, right? You can still always experiment, always test, always learn. Especially when you're young, it's going to be confusing, right? It's going to be confusing to know what to do, what your strengths are. Should I get out of the field? You experiment for a long time. But in the meantime, at least use your strengths to get some good results in your life. Don't suffer for years and decades not doing anything that you're good at. Leverage your strengths. That's what I'm learning. Leverage your strengths. Strengthen your strengths. I would say spend 80 to 90% of your time strengthening your core capacities, your core strengths. It's like, let's say you have stats, you're a video game character, RPG, and you're born with stats, and you have like 100 towards intelligence, but you have like 5 towards strength. And every time you practice intelligence, it increases at the rate of like 10 per unit of practice, 10 a day. But when you practice strength, all that time you only get 1 unit per day. And so how crazy would you be if you kept on just practicing strength with most of your time, getting 1 unit of strength, 1 unit of strength? If you put in the practice towards intelligence, you get 10 units of intelligence per day. You'd be crazy. You would be crazy to focus on strength if you were an intellect build. That's what a lot of people are doing. That's what I was doing for years. And you feel like, why am I not strong? Why am I not getting results in life? Well, you're not using your strengths. You're not sharpening your strengths. You're fighting in the wrong arena. You're judging yourself. You're frustrated, you're angry because you're in the wrong arena. So this is one of those paradigm shifts, zooming out so far out that you realize I never saw it this way. It was so obvious, but I never saw it this way. It's like you zoom out in an airplane and you see a clear picture of your farm, and you see, I see why. Now I finally see why everything's going wrong. It was always there, it was always obvious, but you just didn't see it because you didn't zoom out far enough. This is one of those things, okay? And I'm still working on it. I'm not perfect at this. So that's why I'm releasing a blog. I'm going to be writing more. I'm doing different kinds of videos. I'm going to do documentaries more, overlays, where I write the script and I speak it and I display it in a beautiful way. That's my strength, right? And so you're always fine-tuning. You know, there's other tests that you can do besides just, so we talked about self-experimentation, right? You put yourself in a lot of different situations, you reflect, you think, you deeply think, you journal, you reflect. So that's self-experimentation. Another way that you can find out about your strengths, number 2, is taking these strength quizzes online. It's not my highest recommendation. There's actually things I recommend that are better than this, because sometimes these assessments are a little bit general. Like, they'll tell you about your characteristics, like leadership, or like honesty, or like curiosity, or like fairness or justice. But that doesn't really give you that clear of a picture of what to do, you know? I'm not against them. I think that's good to get a starting point. But after you do things like that, you know, if you want to have my opinion on what's a helpful one, type in Martin Seligman Personality Strengths Free Quiz on Google. You can take it. It'll take like 5 or 10 minutes. It's insightful. It's good. Ranks like 24, 25 different personality traits, right? So that gives you a starting point. Start to understand, all right, cool. But it's not as clear. It's not as clear as doing the personal introspection, right? It's not as clear as getting raw feedback from your friends, your coworkers, your enemies, your family. If you can get feedback from these people, that's the real juice. But sometimes it's tricky, right? Not everybody tells you straight up. They don't want to hurt your feelings, so you have to find a sneaky way. I wondered about this for such a long time. A lot of the time people won't tell you about your weaknesses. A lot of times people won't tell you about how you messed up, what they really think about you, what they think you're weak at, what they think you're strong at. They won't tell you, especially if you're a guy. So I wondered for a long time, how do I actually get real feedback? Well, Dale Carnegie actually has a great tactic. And there's an easier modern way to do it, right? So he said you have to give them an anonymous form. He said you have to get them to feel safe. You have to encourage them to give you the feedback. So you have to make them want to give you feedback. Inspire in the other an earnest want. He talks about that in How to Win Friends and Influence People. So how are you going to get people to give you this anonymous feedback? Well, you have to make them want to do it. Sometimes they don't even want to do it. They don't want to take the time that it takes to give you the feedback. So you got to inspire them. So first step was, I made a Google form, right? I made a Google form and I asked them the questions I wanted to ask. I recommend make it short. I made it too long at first. You gotta tell people it'll only take you 2 minutes to fill this out. So you asked all the questions about what you're curious about. What do you find are my biggest strengths? What do you feel like are my biggest weaknesses? What do you feel like you could see me succeeding at for a career very strongly based on my strengths? Do you rank 1 to 10 how much you could see me prospering being this career, that career, a teacher, an influencer, a speaker, a psychologist? Ask them whatever you want. So make the quick 3-minute quiz. I say ask them like 20 questions maybe. They can finish that in 2 or 3 minutes. And then it's about explaining to them. You send them a message, you send them an email. You explain to them, how are they going to actually be inspired to want to do this? So what I said was, hey, so I realized the importance of understanding my strengths and weaknesses. So I've also realized how hard it is to understand my own strengths and weaknesses. So in order for me to increase my impact in my career and be a better person, have a better impact on the world, I really need help seeing myself and understanding my strengths and weaknesses. So for the sake of helping my career and for the sake of helping my destiny and being able to impact the world in a more beautiful way, for my mission XYZ, so for me that would be like to help improve the health of people mentally and physically with mind-body medicine. Could you take the 2 or 3 minutes to fill out this form? Give them a reason. Because it'll deeply impact the course of my destiny, my effectiveness, and my happiness. And I'm asking you because I respect your opinion. You've been an influential part of my life, and I value your opinion. It'll be anonymous. I won't know your true answers, so you can feel free to be honest and transparent. And I would really appreciate it. It would help me a ton. So I want to thank you in advance. Let me know if you'd help me in this. So something as simple as that, people are going to say yes. Because if you break it down, what are you doing psychologically? You're validating them. You're saying, I want your opinion. People always love to share their opinion. You're inspiring them because you're appealing to a cause greater than yourself. Sometimes people won't do things for you, but sometimes they'll do it for the sake of your cause. So it makes them feel virtuous. You're giving them a reason because people want to feel good about what they're doing. And so when they fill it out, they're going to feel good. A minute or two of my time, I get to impact and feel like I'm a good person because I'm changing the course of this guy's life. I'm going to impact the people who he's going to reach. And you can even throw in, I'd be happy to do you a similar favor. If you want feedback on anything, I'll definitely make it up to you. Or I'll definitely return the favor. It's a better way to say it. I'll return the favor. So they know they're building goodwill too. They're going to do it. And so I send that out to 10, 20 people. You start getting the feedback. You start having a clearer picture. You start understanding, okay, well, I never realized that about myself. People would tell me, you got to get more in touch with people's emotions. You got to stop dominating the conversation. So they gave me insight about my social life. They gave me insight about how I'm dealing with them. They gave me insight about my career, they'll tell me, yeah, I could really see you being a counselor. I could really see you being a psychologist. I could really see you being a health coach. But, they would rank me lower on, yeah, I could really see you being like a politician. I could really see you more doing all these things than these other things. You know how valuable that is? That can save you years of your life. That can save you thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands, because you're playing according to your strengths. You're building on your strengths. All your time, all your money is going towards the right things now. You're on track. You're in your lane. You're not Shaquille O'Neal trying to compete with marathon runners, and you're not marathon runners trying to compete with the mountain. You're not trying to deadlift 900 plus pounds. You're in your own lane. It can make the ultimate difference in your destiny, okay? So there's other ways that you can actually get people's opinions on you. Tai Lopez talks about, you look at what your enemies say about you and what people say about you when they're mad at you. Like, screw that guy. He's the most boring guy in the world. But, at least he's kind of smart. At least he knows how to cook. Like, it can come in so many ways. Like, that guy, the only thing he's good at is talking. He's such a greasy salesman. The only thing he's good at is talking. That's the only thing he can do. He's such a piece of shit. All he can do is talk, So people will say bad things about you, but what did they just say? They revealed he can talk. That's your strength, you can talk. Maybe your weakness is integrity, morality, you gotta work on that, okay? Certain things everybody should work at. You should definitely work at not being a narcissist, not being a psychopath, but at the same time, there's limitations of what you can do there too. That's a whole nother deep topic. But people will tell you. People will tell you what your strengths are when they're mad at you. So remember that. It's okay to have enemies. Enemies that chew you out. Enemies that diss you, they'll tell you what you're bad at. People get pissed at you and they start dissing you. Well, maybe there's some truth to that. Or maybe people joke around. Chinese proverb says, much truth is said in jest. So maybe people will tease you or make mean jokes. Well, don't always discount what people are saying. Even if it's unpleasant to admit, sometimes there might be truth in what they're saying, right? Even if it makes you feel insecure, even if they're talking about that guy's so insecure, or that guy's going through a phase, or that guy's so confused. It's giving you feedback, okay? Or that guy's always late, or that guy doesn't care. Sometimes friends will tell you when they're mad at you. Family will tell you when they're mad at you. That guy is just so obnoxious, he just dominates the conversation. They'll tell you, especially with his form. So remember, the insults, the mean jokes, when people are angry at you, what do they say about you? You're doing the assessments online, the forms. You're also really thinking a lot about this, The more you reflect and think about this, the more clues you'll get based on your life experience, your negative emotions, what made you feel powerful, what made you feel weak, what made you feel insecure. It'll start revealing to you your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you value this knowledge, this understanding, you'll keep on getting more and more insights. If you don't think that this is important, you're just going to keep on banging your head against the wall. If it's not important for you to get aligned, to play according to your strengths, if you don't ever think about this, meditate on it, journal about it, you don't give a lot of time to it, you just move on after this video and never think about it again, you're going to lose it. You're not going to get it. You got to contemplate. You got to think. You got to meditate. You got to pray about this stuff. And not even pray in a religious sense. You got to just put the time and the effort into understanding it, to implementing it. If you don't feel like it's important, you're never going to do it. It's going to escape you. If you feel like it's so important that it will define the destiny of your life, if you really understand how important it is to play according to your strengths, understand yourself, know thyself, then you will. Then you'll get that knowledge. It'll come to you. You'll find it. You'll find it in books, you'll find it in your thoughts, you'll find it in others. All right, so value this. If you don't value this, then you're just going to be inefficient your whole life. That's why the first edict that Socrates said was, know thyself. All right, so meditate on it. And to help you meditate on what else goes into living a life of vitality and living a rich life, you got to think about the 6 pillars. So I'm always including in my videos a PDF where you can get the 6 pillars. You can look at all the different pillars, the areas of your life that determine your vitality, that determine how rich of a life you're going to be able to live, that determine how much you can empower yourself, that we haven't been taught in school. And so I broke it down into many different practices that you can do for each pillar: sleep, stress, nutrition and gut health, exercise and training, movement, detoxification, and then habits and how you're living your life, you know, the unconscious stressors. So you can start practicing all of these things in many holistic, natural ways, pulled from thousands of years of yogic training. Philosophy of the Greeks, a lot on yoga. So you can print that out and start practicing over the next few months. I want you to start practicing these things. Start practicing the life of vitality so that you can change your life. Start practicing in all these different pillars, these different arenas, so that you can see the change that happens effortlessly. When you get this right, when you get your mind right, your emotions right, your central nervous system right, your hormones change. Your hormones transform everything. So it makes everything effortless, right? You give somebody testosterone, they change effortlessly. You change someone's neurochemicals, they change effortlessly. That's what we're doing. That's the health hacking movement, okay? It's what people, yogis, the Greeks have been doing for thousands of years. This is ancient wisdom. This ain't no scam. This isn't the crooked fitness medical industry, okay? We're changing it one step at a time. It's like Batman in the city of Gotham, okay? The Jedis, the people in the Matrix breaking free from the illusion of society. God knows we need it. So download that. Check out right now it's a free 6-week masterclass. Look at that below. It's only free for now. I'm testing different things that I want to do. Standing right here at the workout station. That's why I'm standing here. You can get in there and get some free coaching only for now. Testing out different techniques, different health hacks. You'll have a beta group, you'll have a coach, you'll have a tribe. Get in there. It's only free for now. It's going to be hundreds of dollars later. Try it free now. Check out that YouTube channel, fill out the PDF. You can apply for a seat. If I still have open seats, I can only do so much free training. All I ask is for committed, dedicated people who actually will implement these lessons, who aren't just going to lollygag, who will give feedback, okay? We need to experiment. Experimentation is the #1 skill for transforming your life. Curiosity, experimentation, creativity. All right? So check that out below. Get the resources, like and subscribe, stay on track. This is our movement. This is an amazing movement that we have together. Isn't it fun? We get to be here together and experiment in so many different ways. It's really amazing to be human because you have so much potential to transform. You have so much potential to change. You have so much potential to see all these different realities that can happen. So thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video.